The guy was 6'4", 300 pounds of corn-fed muscle packed into a black Gold's Gym tank top, and he shoulder-checked Sylvester Stallone so hard walking past the squat rack that the barbell rattled on the pins. Stallone caught himself on the metal frame, looked up, and locked eyes with a man who outweighed him by 120 pounds and clearly did not care who he was. What happened in the next 45 minutes inside that Los Angeles gym would become fitness industry legend, a story whispered about for decades by the trainers, the regulars, and the handful of guys who happened to be there that evening and couldn't believe what they watched unfold. Let me set this up, because you need to understand the ingredients before the explosion. It's 1987. Stallone has just come off filming Predator. No, wait, that was Schwarzenegger. Stallone just rapped over the top the arm wrestling movie, and before that he'd been deep in Rocky IV and Rambo territory. The man was walking around at about 175 pounds, lean, vascular, every muscle defined, but not big. Not by powerlifting standards, not by football standards, and definitely not by the standards of the absolute unit who just bumped into him at the original Gold's Gym Venice Beach location, which, at that time, was the center of the known universe if you moved iron for a living. Stallone rolled his shoulder, shook it off, and went back to loading his bar. He was doing front squats, deep ones, with 2 plates and a quarter on each side. Solid weight. Nothing outrageous. He wore a gray cut-off sweatshirt, no logos, no branding, and a pair of old wrestling shoes that had seen better days. The man kept his head down at the gym. He wasn't there to perform. He was there to work. Believe me, that matters. The guy who bumped him wasn't just some random meathead. His name, and I'll use a partial name out of respect for certain agreements, was Dale. Dale was an active-duty Navy SEAL, stationed at Naval Special Warfare Command in Coronado, but spending his leave time in Los Angeles because his girlfriend lived in Santa Monica. Dale had earned a reputation at this gym over the past few months as someone who lifted absurd weight, talked louder than the stereo system, and had zero filter. 300 pounds, a 34-inch waist, traps that swallowed his neck. He did not bump Stallone by accident. Stallone said nothing. He finished loading the bar, ducked under it, set his elbows high, and dropped into a clean front squat. 5 reps. Controlled on the way down, explosive on the way up. He racked the weight and turned around. Dale was standing 6 feet behind him, arms crossed, grinning at 2 other guys who trained with him. One was a fellow SEAL, compact and quiet, maybe 220. The other was a civilian, a bodybuilder type with the telltale acne scars on his shoulders. The 3 of them were watching Stallone the way a group of seniors watches a freshman try to find his locker. Here's what nobody tells you about Stallone. The man grew up in Hell's Kitchen when Hell's Kitchen was still actually hell. He went to school for drama, sure. He worked in a deli. He was broke. But before any of that, before Rocky, before everything, he'd been in street fights, real ones, the kind where you lose teeth and don't call the cops after. He also trained seriously in boxing for years, not movie boxing, actual boxing, with Freddie Roach-style trainers who hit you back. At 175 pounds, Stallone was carrying about as much functional muscle as a human frame his size could hold. He was fast, he was conditioned, and he had something that you can't see in the mirror. He had the kind of internal wiring that does not back down. But Dale didn't know any of that, or didn't care. Stallone started stripping the bar to change his weight, and Dale walked over, not to the squat rack next to him, to Stallone's rack. Leaned on the upright like he owned the whole building. "That's a cute weight," Dale said, loud enough for his friends to hear. "My girlfriend squats more than that." Stallone didn't look up. He slid a plate off, set it on the ground, and said, "Good for her." Dale looked back at his guys and laughed. It was the kind of laugh designed to pull everyone in the vicinity into the joke. A few heads turned. A trainer named Marcus, who I tracked down years later, told me he could feel the temperature in the room shift right there, not because of what Dale said, because of what Stallone didn't do. Get this. Stallone calmly loaded the bar with 3 plates on each side, 315 total, more than he'd been working with. He didn't rush. He didn't slam anything. He chalked his hands, got his elbows high again, and hit 3 front squats with that weight so clean and so deep that his hamstrings touched his calves. Then he racked it without a sound. Dale's eyebrows moved. Just a fraction. But they moved. "Okay, Hollywood," Dale said. "That's not bad for a guy your size, but real men don't front squat. That's a bodybuilding exercise. Come do something real." Stallone pulled the chalk off his hands with a towel, looked at Dale for the first time, really looked at him, measured him the way a tailor would, except the measurement Stallone was taking had nothing to do with cloth. "What'd you have in mind?" Stallone said. "Now I gotta tell you something about the layout of Gold's Venice in the late 80s. The free weight area was in the front, packed tight, dumbbells going up to 150 pounds. There was a back area, semi-private, where the serious guys trained. It had a deadlift platform, a thick bar, and a rope climb that went to the ceiling. The ceiling was 22 feet high. That back area is where Dale pointed. "Rope climb," Dale said. "Full length, no legs, hands only, and then we'll see who's strong and who's just a movie star." Stallone tossed the towel on the bench. He followed Dale toward the back. The two guys with Dale followed. Marcus the trainer followed. 3 or 4 other gym members who'd been pretending not to listen suddenly found reasons to drift toward the back area. Within 60 seconds, there were about a dozen people gathered around the rope. I swear this happened. Dale grabbed the rope first. He was making a show of it. He spat on his palms, rubbed them together, and then he went up. Now, credit where it's due, watching a 300-pound man climb a 22-foot rope with no legs is not nothing. Dale's arms were the size of most people's thighs. He went hand over hand, body hanging straight, feet crossed behind him. He made it to the top, touched the ceiling beam, and came down in a controlled lower. When his feet hit the platform, he wasn't even breathing hard. The two guys behind him clapped. One of them said something along the lines of, "That's how it's done." Dale stepped back and gestured at the rope with an open palm, like a doorman at a hotel. Stallone looked at the rope, looked at Dale. He grabbed the rope, jumped off the ground, and climbed. Here's what was different. Stallone was fast. His hands moved so quickly up that rope that it looked like the rope was pulling him upward rather than the other way around. He reached the ceiling in about half the time Dale had taken. When he came down, he didn't lower himself slowly. He controlled his descent, but it was rapid, efficient, military in its economy. His feet touched down. He stepped back. No one clapped. Not because it wasn't impressive, because the mood had changed. This wasn't a performance anymore. This was a measurement. Dale's jaw moved slightly to the left. That little sideways grind people do when they're recalculating. "You're lighter," Dale said. "That's not the same. You weigh what, 170? I'm almost double that. Climbing is easier when you're built like a jockey." Now here's the thing. Dale was right, technically. Body weight to strength ratio matters on a rope. But here's what Dale did wrong. He kept going. If he'd left it there, the whole thing might have ended with a handshake and some mutual respect. But Dale was the kind of guy who needed to win in front of an audience. "Tell you what, Hollywood," Dale said. "Let's do something where your little frame can't save you. Deadlift. Right now. You and me. We'll pull until one of us can't." Stallone didn't hesitate. He just nodded. You gotta understand what was at stake here. Not money, not a title, pride, but a specific kind of pride. Dale was a Navy SEAL, a man who had survived buds, who had been through Hell Week, who operated in the most elite military unit on the planet. His entire identity was built on being harder, tougher, and stronger than everyone in any room he entered. Stallone was an actor who people assumed was only strong because cameras and lighting and trainers made him look that way. Dale believed that. He believed it deep, and he was about to bet everything on it. Marcus loaded the bar. Standard deadlift bar, iron plates. They started at 225. Both pulled it effortlessly. Marcus added weight, 275. Both pulled it clean, 315. Still moving, 350. Stallone's pull was a little slower. Dale ripped it off the ground and dropped it with a crash that shook the mirror on the far wall. "Getting heavy for you?" Dale asked. Stallone shook his hands loose, stepped back up. "Load it." 385. Both pulled it. Stallone's face reddened. Dale's neck veins looked thick as electrical cables. 405. 4 plates on each side plus the bar. Stallone grabbed the bar, set his hips, took a breath, and pulled. The bar bent before it left the ground. His heels drove into the platform. The weight came up slowly, grinding past his knees, and he locked it out at the top. He held it for a full second, then lowered it. Dale walked up, grabbed the bar with a mixed grip, yanked it off the floor, locked it out, and dropped it from hip height. It hit the platform with a boom that made 2 of the onlookers flinch. "Cute," Dale said. He wasn't grinning anymore. Marcus looked at Stallone. Stallone held up 4 fingers, then a closed fist, then 1 finger. 451. Marcus loaded it. Now, the room was getting thick with people. Word had spread across the gym floor. 20-something people were standing in a loose semicircle around the deadlift platform, and no one was talking. That was the eerie part. A gym like Gold's Venice in the 80s was never quiet. Someone was always yelling, dropping weights, blasting music. But right now, the only sound was iron sliding onto the bar and the breathing of 2 men. Stallone set up on 451. This was approaching elite territory for a man his size. He chalked up. He gripped the bar. He pulled. The bar bent. His face twisted. His back stayed flat, but the effort was enormous. The weight broke the floor, crawled up his shins, stalled at his knees. He exhaled through clenched teeth, drove his hips forward, and the bar moved again, inch by inch, until his body was upright and the weight was locked. He held it, set it down under control. Then he stepped back and his legs were shaking. No kidding. Dale watched all of this with his arms crossed. Then he walked up to the bar. He didn't chalk up. He didn't take a breath. He grabbed the bar and pulled 451 off the ground and locked it out in about 2 seconds. It was the most casual display of brute strength anyone in that room had ever seen. He dropped it and turned around. "See, this is the problem," Dale said, and his voice was calm now, almost kind, which was worse. "You play strong guys in movies. I am strong. There's a difference. You can dress it up, oil yourself up, get the right angle, whatever Hollywood does, but in a real room with real weight, you're just a little guy pretending." Stallone's jaw tightened. His fists were loose at his sides, but his forearms were taut. He looked at Dale's eyes, not his chest, not his arms, his eyes. "You done talking?" Stallone said. "I'm trying to help you," Dale said. "Guys like you come in here and the trainers blow smoke up your ass because you're famous. Nobody tells you the truth. I'm telling you the truth." Here's where the story turns, and I mean turns hard. Stallone did something nobody expected. He didn't argue. He didn't puff up. He walked over to the dumbbell rack in the back area and picked up 2 70-pound dumbbells. Without a word, he started doing curls. Slow, strict curls, no body English, no swinging. He did 12 reps with the left, 12 with the right, set them down and picked up the 80s. He did 10 on each side. Set them down, picked up the 90s. Did 8 on each side, so controlled that his elbows didn't move a millimeter. Then he picked up the 100-pound dumbbells and did 5 strict curls on each side. 100 pounds, single arm, with a form so clean it could have been in an anatomy textbook. He set them down and looked at Dale. "Your turn. Now listen to me carefully. Curling is not about total body strength. It's about a very specific kind of muscle control, tendon strength, and pain tolerance. A big guy can deadlift the house, but a strict curl with a 100-pound dumbbell is a different conversation. It requires years of concentrated work on a relatively small muscle group. And Dale, for all his mass, for all his military training, had not spent those years." Dale grabbed the hundreds. He got the right one up, barely. His body rocked back, his elbow drifted forward, and the rep was ugly, but he got it. He tried a second rep, and his bicep visibly seized. He set it down, tried the left arm, got it halfway up. Then his face changed. Something behind his eyes shifted, like a pilot light going out. He set the dumbbell down. "Cross my heart." Stallone didn't say a word. He walked back to the deadlift platform. He looked at Marcus. 500, Stallone said. Marcus stared at him. 500 pounds, for a man who weighed 175. Marcus opened his mouth to say something, thought better of it, and started loading the bar. The room was dead silent. 25 people, standing still, watching. Someone had turned the music off. Nobody knew who. It was just off. Stallone chalked his hands. He chalked the back of his neck, which is an old powerlifter's trick to keep the nervous system firing. He stepped up to the bar. He wrapped his hands around it. His grip was double overhand, no mixed grip, which is harder, and everyone in that room knew it. He set his back. He took 3 short breaths, and he pulled. The bar did not move for the first second. His face went purple. The tendons in his neck stood out in relief. His entire body was shaking. The bar flexed, and then it broke the ground by an inch, 2 inches. It crawled up his shins, leaving chalk marks on the metal as it went. His knees were shaking, his teeth were bared. Dale was standing directly in front of him, maybe 8 feet away, and Dale was watching this with an expression that Marcus later described as something close to fear. The bar reached Stallone's knees and stopped. It just stopped. His body was stuck. His grip was failing. You could see the bar starting to rotate in his fingers, and every single person in that gym thought it was over. Then Stallone screamed. Not a grunt, not a yell. A scream that came from somewhere below his lungs, somewhere deeper. His hips drove forward, his shoulder blades retracted. The bar moved past his knees, crawled up his thighs, and his body started to straighten. The last 3 inches took what felt like 10 seconds, but was probably 2. And then he was standing upright, 500 pounds in his hands, his entire frame vibrating, double overhand grip holding firm. He held it for 3 seconds. Then he set it down, controlled. He didn't drop it. He set it down. The room was still, completely still. Stallone straightened up, rolled his shoulders once and looked at Dale. Just looked at him, didn't say a word, didn't need to. Dale's training partner, the quiet SEAL, was the first one to react. He started clapping. Not the sarcastic kind, the real kind. Slow, steady, genuine. Then Marcus joined in. Then 2 more guys. Then the whole back area of Gold's Gym Venice was applauding. And Stallone stood there in his torn-up gray sweatshirt and old wrestling shoes, and he didn't nod, didn't bow, didn't smile. He just breathed. Dale stood in the middle of it all, and something happened to his face. His jaw unclenched. His shoulders dropped half an inch. And what came out of his mouth next surprised everyone, including himself. "I got a kid brother," Dale said. His voice was different now, lower, stripped of all that volume. "He's 11. He wants to be an actor because of you, because of Rocky." The room got quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. "He's got a stutter," Dale continued. "Kids at school hammer him for it. He watches your movies every night, every single night. You're his guy." Stallone wiped the chalk off his hands. He looked at Dale, and something in his eyes softened, just for a moment, just enough to see. "What's his name?" Stallone asked. "Tyler." Stallone reached into his gym bag, pulled out a bandana, one of his training bandanas, and he pulled a marker from the side pocket of the bag. He wrote something on it. He walked over to Dale and handed it to him. Dale looked at it. Marcus said Dale's eyes went glassy for about half a second. Then Dale folded the bandana carefully, like it was made of glass, and put it in his pocket. "Tell Tyler something for me," Stallone said. He took a step closer to Dale. They were 2 feet apart now, the 300-pound SEAL and the 175-pound actor. "Tell him the stutter doesn't matter. I had one too. Still do sometimes. Tell him the only people who lose are the ones who stop getting up." Dale nodded. He didn't say thank you. He didn't need to. The nod was everything. You heard me right. Here is the part that people always ask about. Did they shake hands? Marcus says yes. The quiet SEAL confirmed it in a conversation at a reunion event in 2003. They shook hands. Not the competitive bone-crusher handshake. A real one, brief, firm, and done. Stallone went back to training. He did 3 more sets of front squats, lighter weight this time, cooling down. Dale went back to his area and trained quietly for the rest of the evening. When he left, he walked past Stallone's rack, and he stopped. He put his hand on Stallone's shoulder for 1 second. Then he walked out. That was it. But here's what happened after. And this is the part that turns a gym confrontation into something bigger. Dale went home to San Diego the following week. He gave that bandana to Tyler. Marcus heard this secondhand through the gym network. Tyler, the 11-year-old with the stutter, took that bandana to school and showed it to every kid who'd ever given him grief. The message Stallone had written on it was simple. 5 words. Tyler, stay in the fight. Tyler kept that bandana pinned to the wall above his bed for the next 7 years. He did speech therapy. He auditioned for his high school play. He got the lead. He went to college for communications. By the time he was 25, he was working as a production assistant on film sets in Los Angeles, and no, I'm not making this up. He walked onto a set in 2004, and Stallone was there, filming a commercial. Tyler went up to him. He was wearing the bandana around his wrist. Stallone saw it. He recognized it. He pulled Tyler aside, and they talked for 20 minutes. Tyler told him the whole story. The stutter, the bullying, the bandana on the wall, the plays, the career in film. Stallone listened to every word. And at the end, Tyler said something that Marcus relayed to me, which Tyler had told Dale, who told the Quiet Seal, who told Marcus at that 2003 reunion. Tyler said, "You didn't just write on a bandana, you told me I was allowed to exist. For real. Now let me take you back to that gym floor in 1987 for the part nobody talks about." After Dale left the gym that night, Marcus was cleaning up the deadlift platform. He was sliding the plates off the bar, stacking them on the tree, sweeping the chalk. Stallone was still there. The gym was nearly empty, maybe 2 other guys on machines in the front. Stallone came over and helped Marcus strip the bar, an A-list movie star, racking plates at 10 o'clock at night. Marcus asked him, "Did that bother you, what he said?" Stallone shrugged. "Everybody's fighting something. He's fighting his own war. Doesn't matter what he said to me. Matters what he's dealing with inside." Marcus told me that line stuck with him for 35 years. It changed the way he coached people, not because it was profound in some academic sense, because it was real. A guy who'd just been publicly disrespected, who just pulled 500 pounds to prove a point, who had every right to be angry, chose to see the other man's struggle instead. That's not something you learn in a gym. That's not something you learn in a movie. That's something you either have or you don't. But make no mistake, Stallone did prove the point. He didn't back down. He didn't laugh it off. He didn't let fame do the talking. He walked over to that bar, loaded up 500 pounds, and pulled it off the ground with a double overhand grip at 175 pounds of body weight. That is a feat that most professional powerlifters in that weight class would be proud of. He did it in a public gym, under pressure, with a hostile audience, and he didn't drop it. He set it down. This is the truth. That's the difference between a guy who plays tough and a guy who is tough. Stallone never needed to tell anyone he was strong. He just was. The movies, the fame, the red carpets, all of that noise obscured something that the guys in that gym saw clearly that night. Stallone was the real thing. Dale, to his credit, figured that out. It took him about 45 minutes and a 100-pound dumbbell curl he couldn't complete, but he got there. And then he did something that is actually harder than any deadlift or rope climb. He opened up. He showed vulnerability. He talked about his little brother. He admitted, without saying it directly, that Stallone meant something to someone he loved. That took guts. That took a different kind of strength. And Stallone, covered in chalk, purple-faced from the deadlift, veins still popping, met that vulnerability with something equally rare. He met it with kindness. He could have gloated. He could have ignored Dale. He could have just walked away. Instead, he pulled out a marker and wrote on a bandana for a kid he'd never met. If you've been watching this far, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button. I don't ask often, and I won't beg. But if stories like this matter to you, if you want to hear the ones they don't put in the magazines, subscribe and I'll keep digging them up. Now, let me finish this. Years later, at a charity event in 2009, someone asked Stallone about the craziest thing that ever happened to him at a gym. He thought about it for a while. He'd trained with Schwarzenegger, with Franco Columbu, with the legends of the golden era. He'd been in gyms all over the world. He could have told any story. He said, "A SEAL challenged me at Gold's once, 300 pounds, tough as a coffin nail. He thought I was a fraud. We went back and forth on the weights. At the end, he told me about his little brother. That was the best workout I ever had. That was it. No details, no bragging, no mention of the 500-pound deadlift." Stallone has always been like that. The man lets the work speak. Rocky wasn't just a movie script he wrote. It was an autobiography of attitude. Get knocked down, get up. Get knocked down again, get up again. Don't talk about getting up, just do it. That philosophy wasn't invented for a screenplay. It was how he'd lived since he was a kid with a partially paralyzed face and a speech impediment, getting into fights in a neighborhood that didn't hand out second chances. Dale served 3 more tours after that night in Gold's. He retired from the Navy in 1994 with a Silver Star and a permanent limp from a training injury in the Philippines. He moved back to the Midwest, opened a gym, and on the wall of that gym he put one framed photo. It wasn't his SEAL team. It wasn't his commendation ceremony. It was a picture someone had taken that night at Gold's, a blurry Polaroid of Stallone standing over that loaded barbell, chalk on his hands, with Dale visible in the background, arms crossed, watching. Under the photo, Dale had written one line, "Strength isn't size." And Tyler, the kid with the stutter, the kid who couldn't get through a sentence without his classmates laughing, he produced his first short film in 2008. It played at a regional festival. It wasn't about boxing. It wasn't about the military. It was about a kid who gets picked on at school and finds a message in an unexpected place that changes his trajectory. The film won an audience award. In the credits, there's a dedication. It reads, "For the Italian stallion who told me to stay in the fight." That bandana, by the way, still exists. Tyler had it framed in 2010. It hangs in his office next to his editing bay. The ink is faded, the fabric is yellowed, but the words are still legible. Tyler, stay in the fight. 5 words on a piece of cloth, written by a man who'd just been mocked, disrespected, and underestimated in front of a room full of strangers. A man who responded not with anger, not with ego, but with 500 pounds of iron and 5 words of grace. This I know for certain. The gym is gone now. Gold's Venice moved locations, changed owners, changed eras. The original building where this happened has been renovated beyond recognition. The deadlift platform is gone. The rope is gone. The dumbbell rack that held those 100-pounders has been replaced 3 times over. But the story survived. It survived because Marcus told it to every new trainer who walked through the door. It survived because the quiet seal told it at reunions. It survived because Dale put that photo on his gym wall and every member who walked in asked about it. And now you've heard it. A 300-pound Navy SEAL walked into Gold's gym and decided to teach Sylvester Stallone a lesson about real strength. He mocked his size. He challenged his credibility. He told him in front of a growing crowd that he was just a little guy pretending. Stallone's response was to pull 500 pounds off the ground, write 5 words on a bandana, and change a kid's life. Then he went back to his front squats. That, right there, is what a legend looks like. Not the movie kind, the real kind. The kind that starts in a gym at 10 o'clock at night and doesn't end for decades. Stallone walked out of Gold's Venice that evening the same way he walked in. Gray sweatshirt, old wrestling shoes. No entourage, no cameras. He got into his car, drove home, and the next morning he went back to the gym and did it all again. "The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows," Rocky Balboa once said. Stallone wrote that line, but he lived it first. 300 pounds of Navy SEAL learned that the hard way. And a kid named Tyler learned something even better. Stay in the fight.